When operating as a rideshare driver, whether working for Uber or Lyft, one thing all drivers need to realize: tips are earned. Nothing is guaranteed. What up, folks? Once again, it is indeed your boy Tim with another ride-sharing video. As you see, the backdrop is certainly not the inside of a vehicle. I am vacationing in sunny Florida, which is not very sunny at the time, but there you go, a little bit of palm trees to spice up the evening. Now, I just took 2 ride-sharing trips. Had to go pick up a few goods, a few snacks for the evening, and in both cases, I started out, wanted to converse with the drivers. You know, I'm a big stickler for rideshare content, particularly anything that suggests that the companies are not necessarily operating on the up and up. The minute I got in the first car, the driver was very withdrawn. Now, I'm a friendly guy, as you might be able to tell. So I asked him, how long you been driving for Uber? Very slow response. He said a long time. Okay, fair enough. I said, I've been doing it off and on myself for a decade. He kind of gave a grunt, made it clear he was not very interested in carrying on a conversation. Now understand, I make videos all the time about how upset a lot of drivers, including myself, are when passengers do not tip us. However, as I stated at the beginning of the video, tips are earned, they're not guaranteed. So to get a driver that was making it clear he had no interest in speaking with the passengers certainly is going to affect my grading of him as a driver. Now, I'm not trying to carry on a long-ass conversation, but I just simply asking, how long you been driving, and instantly you get the feeling that he doesn't want to talk. So I didn't say much, and he did not state anything the entire drive. Now, I started to figure maybe he had poor English, looked like he was of Hispanic descent. You know what's going on in the country right now. Surely a lot of folks coming into the country are taking advantage of how easy it is to earn a little bit of money on the side driving for Uber or Lyft. So he looked like he probably was of Hispanic descent, but didn't state at all that he had poor English or even indicate that he didn't speak the language very well. He made it clear based on his, we'll just say, body language, he was not interested in talking. Now, this was a very short trip, less than 2 miles. So my payment on the trip was like $9. So I gotta assume the driver probably received damn near minimum fare, $3 or $4 max. And I was going to tip the guy $10. I wanted to let him know I was a content creator, see how Uber and Lyft were treating drivers in this area. And one of the things I wanted to know in particular was how much was he getting paid for the trip, so I could let him know how much I was going to pay. And I was, like I said, I was going to tip the guy $10, which was more than the actual fare of the trip. But his attitude and his mannerisms were so shitty that I still gave him 5 because I still am a huge fan of tipping drivers. I know, as being a driver, how awful it is to get somebody to get out of the vehicle and not tip at all. So I gave him 5, but I was going to give him $10. I was going to give him $10, and I literally dropped the tip because his actions were very shitty. Oddly enough, coming back to my hotel, the driver coming back, once I got in the vehicle with him, I asked him the same question, how long you been driving with Uber or Lyft? His first words were indeed, my English is not that good. Listen, I understand everybody can't speak English, but this is why you have such an outcry to some degree about immigrants. I do believe that if you're going to be in the country shuttling around passengers that predominantly speak English, you should have to know the language as well. I mean, I know it may sound awful of me to say that, but what if I wanted to ask him, where's the best club to go to? Where's the best sports bar to go to? Or, you can't answer any question because you don't speak the language. Now, clearly there is Google, there is Bing and Yahoo. You can look the damn thing up yourself, but that's one of the things that the taxi drivers back in the day always had that was a benefit to passengers visiting. They knew the local area and could give tips to tourists about places to go and, you know, best restaurants to eat at or best bars to hang out at. When you got a driver that doesn't speak English, that's a detriment. Now, obviously, Uber does not require drivers know how to speak the language of the area they're operating in, but in my humble opinion, they should. Now, I'll ask you folks in the comments, is it wrong of me? I don't want to come across as discriminatory. God knows, as being a black man, I don't want to come across as discriminatory, but I do believe if you're going to be picking up passengers that overwhelmingly are going to speak English, you as a driver should know how to speak English too. So, I mean, he used that right off the bat. My English is not that good. However, let me tell you this, because he reminded me of the first guy, the first driver that brought me out there that didn't want to talk. When we got to the location, he actually stated, do you want to go around the front or around the back? And he spoke plain English when he said it. A little bit of an accent, but he knew what he was saying, and I absolutely could understand him. It didn't sound that broken up. So I left the vehicle thinking, this motherfucker actually know how to speak English. He just didn't want to talk. Both ways. Drivers that are just completely silent. I'm not saying you should get into the car and expect this person to carry on a long, lengthy conversation with you. But I do believe that any customer service position, whether you are in ride sharing or whether you work in the counter at McDonald's, you should maintain a friendly presence and a kind attitude towards the customers. Now, in our business in particular, because we want, hope, and almost expect to get a tip, you can't do shit like that. And then go around and complain that only 20 to 30% of your passengers tip. Both of these cases, like I said, I am in Tampa, Florida. Hopefully this is not representative of drivers here. It's been a while since I caught an Uber in Florida. Most places, the drivers are willing to chat with you for a minute. This was a trip that was only 2 miles or so very short trip. And this guy didn't have nothing to say to some degree. Neither one of them did on either comings or going. Like I said, smiled, was pleasant, simply asked the question, how long you been doing this? And damn, I mean, if like I said, the second driver, I think I tipped him $4 or $5 in singles as well. But I just simply wanted to see if I could get a little content out of him, see how things are going as a driver and things like that. And I knew from the first sentence it wasn't even worth trying to carry on a conversation with him. So in both trips, the entire ride, with the exception of that one question, was silent. The driver didn't say anything, and I didn't say anything to the driver. Now, being a driver myself, I will say sometimes there are passengers that get in the car that are overly talkative, particularly for those who are doing an after club crowd. Sometimes you don't want to talk to somebody. If they're drunk, they're spitting all over you and shit like that. I get it. This wasn't that. This was drivers that simply did not want to engage in polite conversation with the passenger. It was as simple as that. So let me know, what do you guys think? In regards to my suggestion that drivers should speak English, that drivers should not expect tips, but rather realize tips are earned. It is not part of your fare. It's not part of your earnings. If you act like shit, that's what you're gonna get. It's your boy Tim. Subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next video.
For the love.